Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the class on financial management, and we are discussing the first chapter of financial management, which is called Nature of Financial Management. Basically, when we started discussing about this topic called financial management, I have discussed with you that when we say finance, finance is basically it's an art or science which deals with fund management or money management. And when we try to apply the logic of fund management in our day-to-day life, so probably we can divide the subject finance altogether into three heads. So it can be either corporate finance. So finance, it can be either corporate finance, or it can be either public finance. It can be either public finance, or it can be either personal finance. So personal finance totally deals with an individual, how an individual works on their financial goals and objective. And more to know about personal finance, we're going to study a subject called security analysis and portfolio management, or investment analysis and management. That we'll study in third semester. Probably if you will take finance as your specialization. If you will not take finance, then probably you're not able to study that. So personal finance, when we talk about, which is all about portfolio management, there we'll discuss about as an individual what all constraint we have in our life. Those constraint will focus on financial constraint, why we need to invest our money. We'll try to learn that objective, how inflation is affecting our value of money, what are the different sources where we can put our money, either they are risk free assets or either they are risky assets. So what risks are involved, how we can work on portfolio, what are mutual funds, what are debt market, what are derivatives market. All this we'll discuss more in personal finance. Then public finance, when we talk about public finance mainly govern how the government of India work on their financial objective. If you see a developing country like India, which is struggling, uh, probably once we are acquired by Britishers. Okay, so that would be the better word, acquired only. And they finally, when we demerged from Britishers, when East India Company left India in 1947, that that era was the era of poverty. That era was the era of unemployment. And in order to make sure that the government should always do best for the society, our government historically has spent a lot of money for the public finance, for the public. I really doubtful how much actually upliftment has happened in society. But yeah, in recent year, we have seen poverty line going down, middle class is more developing, more MNCs coming into the country. This all happened after 1991. So in when we study commerce, when we study management, the very important event we always celebrate, that is the era of implementation of LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, which happened in 1991 when Dr. Manmohan Singh was our prime minister, finance minister, and PV Narasimha Rao was our home minister. I don't want to discuss about the controversy around this implementation of LPG. If you have seen the movie like Madras Cafe, if you connect the dots between assassination of our late Prime Minister Sri Rajiv Gandhi with the LPG, then the story would have been different. But I'm right now, it's not the correct platform to discuss about that part. So public finance is all about how government talks about management of finances. So that there is very limited source of revenue for the government of India. 60 more than 60% of Indian population is engaged in agriculture, contributing less than 15% of GDP, which is not at all taxed. So the majority of income or earning or GDP is contributed by service sector. Service sector altogether as a sector where we have middle class individuals who are paying majority of the income tax. When we look into that, where our service sector is totally depend on what is happening in US economy, what happening in European economy. So we sitting in India celebrate or we take holiday on US or in Europe when they have holiday. and we work when we have holidays as per our Indian calendar. So the story is very different. But even then, we are the taxpayer, we are the part of GDP, okay, and we contribute in the GDP. So when we talk of GDP is a macroeconomic indicator which mainly talks about the growth in the economy. To measure the growth in the economy, we study in the relevance of GDP, GNP, NNP, gross domestic product, gross national product, okay, national, what are GNP, what their differences are there. We gonna discuss more in public finance. Then we have corporate finance. Corporate finance, when we try to understand corporate finance is all about how the corporates are working. So probably after independence to 1991, India was following mixed economy. Although we never followed mixed economy, according to my viewpoint, we always followed socialist economy. Okay, so we had in automobile, we had Bajaj, we had Maruti Suzuki, we had or maybe Yamaha, something, one or two companies were there. Foreign companies were in very limited space before 1991. We did not allowed our gates, our FDI regulations with respect to any sector for foreign companies, and because of which our Indian corporate structure struggled like anything. So we had companies law which keep changed as the time progressed. Now I believe we are following Companies Act of 2001 or 2002. We are following that. So that Companies Act define what company is all about. We talk about sole proprietorship. We talk about partnership. We talk about LLP, limited liability partnership. We talk about bankruptcies. As such, very limited laws are there which talks about the insolvency or the bankruptcy of the firm. We have very limited firms which talks about venture capitalism, which talks about seed financing. So it is very difficult for any individual in India to start their own venture based upon their own business model. So it is very difficult to make others to understand the business plan what we have with us. So although with time the things have become little bit better. So corporate finance basically talks about how a corporate talks about the management of finances, how they can work to generate a revenue from them. Their corporate finance talks about as a firm, how a firm works for the best interest of the society. So finance, when we study finance as in personal finance, public finance, corporate finance. All these industries are integrated with each other. Personal finance talks in micro level as an individual, how I can work on my finances. So when I work on my finances, probably we have some income. We all are earning. So as an income, we have an income, and with that income, some money depending upon the inflation, we spend that money, and the remaining are our saving. So keeping saving idle does not yield any value. So although you may be the richest person, so the best thing what we can do is to invest. So when we invest, there are probably a lot of avenues are there to invest. And whenever we talk about these avenues to invest, whenever we talk about these avenues to invest, so we have risk-free product, we have risky products, risk-free products like bank FD, where returns are guaranteed. So whatever returns are promised, we will get that return. Risky products are like that, which are not at all guaranteed, where the returns are not at all guaranteed. Okay, so whenever any company plan to raise money through like individual or like government of India, a company can look for financing. The decision of the firm is called financial decision. And whenever the company look for finance or capital, whenever any company look for finance or a capital, if a company can raise money either by equity or a company can raise money either by debt. So debt is all about borrowing money from the market. Debt is all about how we can borrow money from the market. So corporate borrows money whenever they have working capital requirement. Corporate can borrow for short-term time period as a bank overdraft. You need to have a current account with a bank, and then you can even work on credit cycle mechanism with the bank. So apart from using credit cards and all, so that way you can borrow money. So the money which is being borrowed, it can be for short term purpose or it can be for a long term purpose. Okay, so the long term purpose, if I talk about borrowing money, so a firm, if I talk as a firm to borrow money, it is called as a debenture. So the debentures are long term debt instrument. Always remember, whenever you talk about debt instrument, whenever you talk about debt instrument have a fixed maturity. Please understand. 1 minute. So whenever you talk about debt instrument have a fixed maturity. Every debt instrument, they come with a fixed maturity. That how you can talk about the difference between equity and debt. That equity are issued in the market for infinite time period. Okay, and while the debt are issued for the definite time period. So debt have a fixed maturity and equity have infinite maturity. So when you talk about debt can be short term debt, it can be long term debt. The debt what the corporate issues, they can be short term debt or they can be long term debt. So they can be short term debt or they can be long term debt. So long term debt are are called as debentures. Okay, they are called as debentures. Okay, the short term debts can be commercial paper. You heard of these instruments? Short term debts can be commercial paper. They can be certificate of deposit. Okay, they can be certificate of deposit. It can be short term loan. It can be short term loan. So the different products are there from which a corporate can take a loan. They can take short term loan. They can issue commercial paper or certificate of deposit, or for long term loan they can issue debentures. Debentures are made of convertible debentures also, which you can convert into equity in the future. So debt, whenever you take debt, doesn't matter you are the government of India or you are individual or you are a firm, debt always come with a risk. So whenever in case if you raise money in the form of debt, then you are taking a risk. You are inviting yourself for a risk that is called as financial risk. Always remember that risk is called financial risk. Financial risk talks about a scenario or the possibility that you need to pay the interest no matter you get a profit or loss. So in the future, no matter you get a profit or you get a loss, you need to pay the interest whatever you committed to pay. So you cannot run around that interest. So whenever we talk about financial risk, when we look into debt instrument, and in the case of debt instrument, whenever we borrow money as a corporate also, when they borrow money, so there's some ratio which every investor look before investing in any company. That ratio is called debt equity ratio. So if you have a debt equity ratio which is more than one, definitely the investor will run away investing in any company stocks. So because nobody will prefer to invest in some kind of company which have more debt than equity in their capital structure. Again, this come with a what you say exceptions. Like you need to compare the debt equity ratio of any company with its competitor. There are some business model where debt is required. You need debt. Like they are companies which work on some kind of business model, maybe oil and gas exploration company. So which go to Krishna Godavari basin and then they start digging oil. So that require a lot of initial investment. So they need to put lot of money upfront to work on the heavy machines which can work on exploration activities. And gradually it may take time to get the crude oil what we get from digging inside the sea or ocean basin. And then once you get the crude oil also, they are impure crude oil. You need to spend time and money on the filtration. And once that is done, then probably you can sell them. You can make money from them, because the same thing is being sold to what you say, what you say, cosmetic companies. The same thing is being used in many pharma products. The same thing is being used for a petrol, diesel, kerosene, and other any other biochemical activities. So then the revenue can be generated. But initially, for certain time period, there's a gestation period for which you need to wait. So imagine if you look into the book of account of any company during that era, definitely you will get scared. So it's always good that if you look into the ratio of any company, always compare the ratio, financial ratio of that company with its competitor to understand the business model of whole sector altogether. And then only your idea about that company can be developed. So debt, no matter how it is being worked on, debt always come with a risk. That risk is called financial risk. Financial risk talks about the possibility that either I get a profit or either I get a loss in the future. I need to pay the interest on the debt. That interest I need to pay. Okay, and that interest, what I'm talking about, that interest ultimately will help. That interest will ultimately can help firms also many times. Imagine the return what you are getting. Okay, that is more than the rate of interest what you are paying. Then always the ROE of the company, return on equity of the company, will increase up very significantly. So all this thing will study in the chapter called financial and operating leverage to understand this perspective in much more better way. But again, you understand debt. Whenever you study debt instrument, you need to understand with debt instrument very important term. Whenever you study debt instrument, that is called leverage. So whenever you study debt instrument, you need to understand very important term called leverage. So whenever there's a word leverage, you studied in physics when you study the chapter called machine. So debt instrument always come with a leverage. That leverage is called financial leverage. So in case if the return what you're getting by raising money because of debt, if that return is more than the rate of interest what you're paying, then your firm ROE will go up significantly. Otherwise, in worst case situation, if the thing does not happen the way you thought, then the risk will turn your company to complete bankruptcy. So that has happened in company like Lehman Brothers. 158-year-old bank got bankrupt in 18 September 2008. The world fifth largest bank, the Lehman Brothers, got bankrupt. So you need to understand the importance of interest, the importance of debt in the capital structure. So we'll study a chapter called uh, capital structure of the firm. Okay, where we study hypothesis. Okay, net operating income approach model, net income approach model, which talks about that is that the value of the firm is independent of your financial structure, or the value of the firm ultimately depends upon your financial structure. So different theoretical models are there, like hypothesis. The most famous is hypothesis, and the other models are there, where these models are talking about really will the capital structure, will it bring any change in the value of firm or not. So they are just a theoretical model where which we'll discuss that time when I'll teach you. So basically, all the if any firm is 100% equity financed, if any firm is 100% equity finance firm, is 100% equity financed, 100% equity financed firm, which has only equity in the capital structure. They don't have any debt in the capital structure. Then this kind of firm is called unlevered firm. This kind of firms are called unlevered firm. These kind of firm are called unlevered firm. While if the firm have debt plus equity, if the firm have debt plus equity in the capital structure, then they are called as levered firm. Then they are called as levered firm. Okay, then we call them as a levered firm. levered firm. So when we study that the capital structure theories model, there we'll study that really the financing part, will that they affect the valuation or not. So different models talk differently. So I'm not going to discuss more on this part. We need to wait for the right time to discuss about them. So now coming back to the financing, guys, the capital what the firm, the capital what any firm raise, because anyone and everyone in this world need money. Okay, so that capital the firm can get either by equity or they can get by debt. Okay, like the same way government of India also. Government of India, if they, when they need fund, they raise fund either by equity or they raise the fund by debt. What is equity, sir? How government of India can raise money, sir, by equity? So you know that government of India is somewhat, you can call them as a owner of the properties, tangible properties in our country. So probably what the government of India do, they sell government properties. So they sell government lands to the foreign firms. So whenever any foreign firm want to start the operation in India, so you know about international business. So if they want to start the regulation, if they want to do business in India, so they need to understand what are the FDI regulation with regard to that sector in our country. And once they have understood the FDI regulation, like how much they are acceptable to start their venture in our country, for that they need to understand foreign direct investment laws and regulation about initiation of any company in any sector. Once government okay, give them okay, once they have submitted all the required document, then what government will do, government will sell or will give them on lease the government assets like land or some other fixed asset if they're looking for. So that way the firm always, when if they start the operation in our country, then every year they will pay corporate tax from the profit what they'll make. Along with that, on the government property, wherever the plant is there, they'll use that government property and then they'll generate a rental, they'll give a rental to the government of India. So you can understand like that. So there are a lot of PSU companies were there. You heard of the lot of PSU companies were there. So the PSU, public sector undertaking. So these PSU companies, now what government is doing, government is now doing IPO, FPO of these PO sectors company, PSU sectors company. So now a very famous IPO is coming very soon. That is LIC IPO. I believe you might be aware about LIC IPO. So right now everyone is talking about LIC IPO. So that will be the biggest IPO in our country. So LIC IPO. So before LIC IPO, Paytm is coming with their own IPO of 16,600 crore. So Paytm is coming with their own IPO of 16,600 crore. I think LIC IPO will be much bigger than that, but there are lot of controversy is happening with LIC IPO. So you see, no, LIC IPO date alert, biggest in Indian financial government in history. So, but when LIC is planning to come up with this IPO, you will see there will be lot of opposition from lot of sectors, lot of people, union leaders and all. Socialist people will never like IPO. What is IPO? IPO is all about selling their ownership. So government of India, what government is doing by doing IPO or FPO? IPO means initial public offering. FPO means follow on public offering. So by doing IPOs and FPO, what government is doing, government is selling their ownership. Government of India is selling their ownership what they have in LIC. So till now, government of India was the majority shareholders. So in the LIC, now what government of India will do to generate money, because you understand now how will you run the economy? How will you run the economy? See what is happening in India. Last 1 year, if you see, because of Corona. See, first of all, I'm not a supporter of Modi government, so don't think that I'm supporter government, Modi government. So I'm trying to justify any figure. So I'm just telling you as a government. So government from last 1 year, the form of tax, maybe income or corporate, you think how much would it would have reduced? because of corona epidemic. So what are the forms of revenue for the government? Very, very limited. The taxes, income or corporate. From there only government generate revenue, or maybe from leasing government properties and also FDI if government has done whatever. So from there they generate revenue. So you see how what is the room of development for the government of India, from where the government of India can generate revenue. So now what government of India is actually doing to generate revenue, government of India is actually selling their ownership in different PSU companies. Okay, so by that what government of India is trying to do, government of India is trying to generate revenue. The same revenue the government of India will then use for expenditure activities, for the development of society, free corona vaccine to all the people in India. So where that money will come to pay to that to that companies, that whichever company is giving that vaccine to the Indian government, that company need money, right? Government of India has to give money to that company. The government of India is giving free vaccine to the people, but that company is not giving free vaccine to the Indian people. I hope you are getting it. So where the government of India get the money to pay for these companies. So for that, what government of India to generate revenues, government of India has to look for many other alternatives through which they can generate revenue. So one of the very easiest way to generate revenue is through IPO. IPO, initial public offering. FPO, follow on public offering. So basically, if a company has not raised money from more than 10 lakh rupees from more than 50 people, not 10 lakh. So worth if you try to raise money from more than 50 people, okay, so automatically that issue through which you are raising money, and that will become a public issue. And once the issue become a public issue, now the public are the owner of the company. Public will tell what to do and when to do. The public represents public. Public are the owner of the company, and public have a representation whom we call as shareholders. The responsibility of the shareholder is to make sure that the government, not the government, the management of the company work for the best interest for the company. Are you getting me? So we have a shareholder, we have a management. So as the government of India or corporate, whenever they look for money, so they can raise money either by equity or they can raise money by debt. So when they're raising money by equity, so the basic way, probably as a firm to raise money, if they want to raise money by equity, so if the firm can talk about finance, if firm can talk about the finance by two ways. They can talk in the term of equity, or they can talk in the term of debt. If they talk in the term of equity, then they can do either public issue, or they can do either private issue. Public issue or private issue. The public issue means from public if they raise money. So public means more than 50 people. Less than 50 people, it is called as private placement. So when we talk about private placement, so if you go, you heard, no, Facebook has recently raised Facebook has recently raised some money from not Facebook. Baiju recently raised money from some Facebook or Blackstone, lot of private equity companies. We call them private equity companies. We small level we call them seed financiers. For big level, very big ventures who aggressively do all their business model is this only. We call them as a private equity firms. So they majorly buy a huge investment of a company. Okay, and then they can help in the management also for running the company. Like history, if you surprised to know, Paytm, which is run by Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Paytm, only 15% of ownership of Paytm is actually with Vijay Shekhar Sharma. More than 35% of ownership of Paytm is there with Ant Group. It's a Chinese based private equity firm. Okay, then we have Alibaba investing in Paytm. So I'll not go and discuss more about it. So I hope you are getting me. So you don't want to go to the public. You went to some big firm. You went to some big firm, and that firm did the valuation of your company. And based upon that, the firm decided that how much is your requirement of fund, what is your value of the firm. On that basis, they'll tell you how much ownership you need to dilute, and they'll buy that much percentage of ownership. So that way, when we do that, is called private issue, and this can be done. It is called as private placement. It is called as private placement. This is called as private placement. Okay, when it done with normal individual, and when we do the same thing with big firms. Okay, if I go to and request some big firms to do investment in my company, where I'll not change my ownership pattern. I was a private company, I still as a private company, then it is called as QIP. Then it is called as QIP, qualified institutional placement. Qualified institutional placement. Qualified institutional placement. In qualified institutional placement, who will invest in QIP? You have QIB. Who will invest in them? QIB. What do we call QIB, sir? What do you mean QIB? QIB, FIIs, all mean same thing. Foreign institutional investor, qualified institutional buyers. They include big mutual fund companies, hedge fund companies, big banks, big brokers. So they all called as QIB or FII or institutional investor. So they will buy the ownership in some big firms which don't want to change their ownership pattern. So that is called QIP, qualified institutional placement. Public issue means when you target more than 50 people. So automatically that issue become a public issue. And when the first time you do the public issue, that is called as IPO, initial public offering, where you offering your ownership to the public, that let's see whoever XYZ, anyone, if they are interested to participate in the IPO of my firm, they can come, and then they can buy the ownership. Okay, and then once that ownership is being bought, then automatically the company will become a public company, because it has raised money from the public. Once you have taken money from the public, it's not like that you had the requirement of money and you took money from the public, and now public will go and sleep giving you the money. So if once your public has invested the money in your firm, then definitely the public will have more interest in knowing what we are doing, because now the public have bought the ownership. So whenever the ownership is bought, the company offers ownership. The company offers ownership to the normal public through IPO or FPO, whatever. So that ownership is given in the form of shares. That ownership is given in the form of shares. Shares are called per unit ownership of the company, which the company dilute at the time of public issue. So the company gives shares to the public. Okay, the shares can be ordinary shares can be preference shares. Preference shares are normally not allotted during IPO or FPO or any public issue. Preference shares is only allotted only whenever the private placement, something like that happens. There we see private preference shares. Preference shares have definite maturity period. Preference shares are redeemable equity instrument. They have definite maturity period, and then they get mature. But ordinary shares have infinite maturity period. Going concern concept. I hope you remember going concern concept. I hope you remember in accounts we studied something called going concern concept. So going concern concept talks about this scenario that your managements will keep changing in the future, but your company will remain for the infinite period in the future. So the shares, what is being offered to the company at the time of IPO, that shares are per unit ownership of the company that will have infinite life. So because that shares is having infinite life, there need to be a medium where we can buy or where we can sell shares. And that medium is provided by the exchange. So the medium where actually we can buy n number of shares and we can sell n number of shares. So that medium, that medium where you can buy or where you can sell, that medium is provided by the exchange. We have stock market exchange, we have Sensex, we have Nifty, we have Bombay Stock Exchange, we have National Stock Exchange, where you can go and buy the shares, where if any company is done IPO, their shares are already trading there. You can buy their shares, you can sell their shares, you can do anything about the share depending upon the kind of news you are getting about the company in the market. Depending upon that kind of news, you decide that should you stay invested in that company or should you run away from that investment. So the news about the company, the news about the sector where the company is doing business, the news about the country where the company is doing the business, all this all together, all this all together will talk about the will talk about how the value of the firm can be determined. You are getting so all the firms which are public firms, which they have done the IPO, once they listed in the stock market, why they need to list themselves on the stock market? Because they have given the ownership which is having infinite life. Because they have given the ownership which is having infinite life, they need to medium where public can transact on that ownership, and that medium is provided by the stock exchanges. So I hope you are getting it, the logic why the company need to put themselves on this on the stock exchange, the ownership pattern of the company, then it would transform from a private company to a public company. And once the company become a public company, then the company has to follow government laws and regulation. Okay, the government has to follow government laws and regulation where once the company become a public company, the company need to what you say audit their book of account from some external auditor, and then they need to publish their quarterly, annually, half yearly balance sheet, P&L, or any other financial statements to the public, so that public after after every quarter will get to know what is happening in the company and how the value of my investment is getting changed in that company. So that how this plays a very much important role when we have the audited book of account. So the public issue can be done either through IPO. Public issue is also done through FPO, follow on public offering. Public issue is also done through right issue. So the right issue, FPO or IPO, a company can do a public issue. So IPO means first time when the company raise money from public, where anyone and everyone, whoever is interested, he or she can come and participate in the IPO or to participate in the growth momentum of the firm. So that we that we have discussed, that we have discussed okay already, the reason why the company need to put themselves on the stock market, why the company need to do the IPO. Once they do the IPO, why they need to list themselves over the stock exchanges, what kind of corporate governance norms and regulation the company follow once the IPO is done. Then when I talk about FPO, follow on public offering, follow on public offering is basically the same steps of IPO, what you did in the IPO. You want to repeat the same thing, but only thing here, the name will change. The name will not be IPO, the name will be follow on public offering. So to do the FPO, the company should have already have done IPO. You're getting right. So FPO is same like what you did in IPO, the same process you'll do in FPO. The only thing is difference is the name. Okay, the only difference is a name. The other difference can be the time when you do FPO. You need to understand that time the shares would be trading in the market. At that time, the shares would be trading in the market. And because the shares would be trading in the market, you cannot offer shares to the public at the market price or above the market price. So if you are trying to offer shares to the public, then you need to give the share uh, lesser than the market price. Then only anyone would be interested to participate in that FPO. Okay, so you understood what is IPO, what is IFPO. Now talking about right issue. Right issue is all about offering shares of your company to your existing shareholders. So instead of targeting any new person to come and bid in the IPO, So we are spending so much time in time and resources. Now the same can be done through right issue. Right issue means if you feel that your existing shareholder are having that much demand about your company, that if you simply offer to your existing shareholder, they will definitely will buy the ownership. They will, because you have a requirement of money. That's why we are doing public issue, and that money requirement would be filled very easy. That is called right issue. Any doubt, anyone? So I believe you don't have any doubt. So if a firm want to raise money, okay, through equity, then in the case of equity, the ownership is being transferred, while in the case of debt, the ownership is not transferred. Okay, so when we talk about ownership, equity is all about raising money from the public by inviting public to be the part of the growth cycle of the firm. So by inviting others to come become the owner and participate in the firm, the way the firm is doing. That is not about giving the ownership. That is all about raising money from the market for a definite time period. That is what all about debt. Debt are always issued for a definite time period. In equity, we issue two kinds of instrument. Either we issue ordinary share or we issue preference share. So in the case of ordinary share, when we talk about ordinary share, in case of ordinary share, the ownership is being transferred. Ordinary shareholder are having voting rights. They participate in the stock market trading, while preference shares don't do that. Okay, so preference shares are very limited in our country. Okay, so they need lot of regulation over understanding the preference share. So when we talk about debt, you know that debt is all about borrowing money, okay, with a definite time period. Equity is all about giving your ownership to the public, and then when it is done through public issue or through private issue. So you understood what is IPO, what is FPO, what is right issue, what is private issue, in which you understood about private placement, QIP. Then one more thing is there called preferential allotment. One more thing is called preferential allotment. One more thing is called preferential allotment. Preferential allotment basically means when a public company do a private issue. Preferential allotment means when a public company do a private issue. So they maybe the firm is not very much interested to raise money from the public, maybe because of whatever reason the firm think that is not the ideal time to raise money from the public doing IPO, FPO, anything. So instead of that, if firm can look for preferential allotment where they may give the certain percentage of the ownership what they are owing, what they are having. They can sell that ownership to some other individuals or other firms, and thereby they try to generate the required revenue. So this is called preferential allotment. So when a public company, instead of doing public issue, do a private issue. Private company do a private issue, that is understandable because they don't want to become a public company. So because their laws of corporate governance will be different to that company which is works on which works on such kind of scenario. So public public companies are different because they need to follow a lot of regulations. Private companies are different because they don't have to disclose their book of account to anyone. So I hope you are understanding. So issues can be done either as a public issue or it can be private issue. So whenever we raise money and we become the owner of the company, we are participating in the stock market also to buy or sell companies. So the idea here is that the people who are the management of the companies, so they are whoever they are. They should work for the best interest for the company. That is the idea, that the management should work for the best interest for the company. But normally it is being seen that Management, instead of working for the best interest of the firm, management many times work only for the short-term gains, because that short-term gains gives them lot of compensation. That short-term gains can give them many times certain benefits, short-term benefits, which may not be good for the company in the long run. So this will create a conflict of interest between the management and the owners. That problem is called as agency problem. Remember, that issue is called as agency problem. That issue is called as agency problem. So agency problem basically talks about the conflict of interest which can happen between the management and the shareholder of the company. Okay, that issues, the cost involved because of that difference is called agency cost, and this problem is called as agency problem. Okay, so when we look into the firm, a firm works with for an objective or vision or mission of maximization the shareholder wealth value. That should be the objective of the firm. So the objective of the firm should always be maximizing the shareholder equity value of the firm. So if you can maximize the shareholder equity value, okay, so then we can say that yeah, we have done for the best interest for the public. So the firm, the way we see historically how the objective of the firm have changed. Initially the objective of the firm was profit maximization. You remember Adam Smith, Wealth of Nation, East India Company, whichever companies you talk about, how the British colonies, British companies to establish their colonies in America, New World, Australia, Africa. So their idea was to suppress the rights of the people. Their idea was to do as much exploitation as they can so that they can maximize the revenue, and by maximizing the revenue or minimizing the cost, the problem can be resolved. So earlier the scenario was like that, where the firms totally works on exploitation. There was no environmental norms and regulation. There was no uh, human resource as a tool of management was there. So by exploitation, by more and more exploitation, more and more profit can be generated. But as the time is getting progressed, now what we see the possibility that we cannot talk that as an objective. The objective of the firm is profit maximization, because if you're saying that your objective is profit maximization, if you're saying that your objective is profit maximization, you need to talk about what profit you're talking about, because the profit can be gross profit, profit can be operating profit, or the profit can be net profit. So we need to discuss about what profit I'm actually talking about. So gross profit is nothing but you simply subtract your COGS, direct cost, from your revenue. You get gross profit. So that cannot be the end objective of the firm, because your profit, your business model not only depend on direct cost. It can depend on majority of indirect cost. Maybe you're not at all into manufacturing, then direct cost already is zero. So your objective cannot be maximizing the gross profit. So neither it can be maximizing the operating profit. So if we say that my objective is the maximization of operating profit, then operating profit is like you subtract all the forms of cost, direct and indirect. Then what you get is called operating profit. So you'll say then that is fine. No, what is big deal? Then you need to understand here we are not making an account of the interest what we are paying on debt. So again, so maybe you are getting very good operating profit, but whatever profit you are getting, more than that, you are paying as an interest only to the creditor. You have taken huge loan from money, you have taken huge loan from the another bank or company, and with that you generated good revenue. But whatever you generated, if that is more, if whatever you generated, if suppose that is less than what you need to actually pay as the interest, then what is the point of generating that much? So you are getting it. So the objective of the firm cannot be gross operating profit. Then people say then the objective of firm should be net profit. But again, net profit or maximizing the EPS, net profit or maximizing the EPS cannot be the end objective of the firm, because you need to understand profit is just an accounting outcome. So from the total source of revenue, wherever the revenue can be generated, if we subtract all the forms of cost, including some non-cash expenses like depreciation, amortization, then the value what we get, then the value what we get, that we called as the net profit. But net profit never talks about the cash position of the firm. I am having net profit of 1 crore. The time when the Lehman Brothers got bankrupt, they had asset trillions of dollars of asset. Net profit doesn't mean anything. It's just an accounting outcome. You just deducted all the forms of cost. You deducted some relaxation what government of India is giving you. So ultimately, the value what you get, you pay even the interest also. That also you deducted because that is also relaxation. Then ultimately, what figure you obtain, that is called as operating profit. So, so the sorry that figure what you get is called as a net profit once you deduct everything. So it never talks about the cash position because revenue can even be generated by credit sales. In accountancy, we follow historical cost measurement. So the you can generate revenue even with the credit sales. If you are generating revenue with the credit sales, then it never talks about the net profit as a cash position. For that, you need to better look for the cash flow statement of a company to understand the cash position of the firm. Okay, profit loss statement does not serve the objective. Again, if you could not able to receive money, you need to make a provision also for bad debt if that happens. So you need to understand that you as an investor, as a shareholder, the end objective can never be the maximizing the net profit or EPS. EPS is what? EPS is nothing but your profit after tax divided by number of shares outstanding. So it does not talks anything, any talks anything about the cash position of the company nowadays. As the human resource management is getting more stronger nowadays, as the as an environment where every firm, every country have their own taxation or accounting norms and regulation. Nowadays, the scenario where we all talk about environmental policies, where we talk about CSR, corporate social responsibilities. So there there instead of looking beyond profit maximization, where the profit maximization, when we say, it does not follow time value of money, also it does not follow time value of money, it does not follow time value of money, it does not follow time value of money. So your objective of a firm can never be the objective of the firm can never be the profit maximization. Profit maximization is just an accounting outcome. So it may used to work in ancient time, but right now we look for cash flows from operating activities, free cash flow to firm, free cash flow to equity. So these talks about as a firm how the firm is working on. So when we look into the firm, the objective of the firm right now is maximization of shareholder wealth. So right now all firms are talking about only one objective. That objective is maximization of shareholder wealth. Clear, everyone? Anyone, any doubt? So here we have discussed this. Whatever I've done, more or less we have discussed this. We are doing it from last so many times. Corporate finance, we basically talked about the bridging the networking between different departments. Those departments are either production or marketing, finance, they can be human resource department, they can be supply chain management department. Primarily, we had uh, production, operation, and finance, where all the departments all together work for the best interest for the firm to generate the real and financial assets for the firm. Real assets are mainly tangible assets, which include plant, machinery, office, factory, furnitures, and building. Intangible assets can be the technical collaboration, patent, copyright, technical know-how of the company. Financial assets are basically those forms of assets which primarily a firm generate, maybe because of diversification. So because it's very important that we should talk about diversification. So if we have, as a firm, if we have reasonable amount of earning at the end of the day, a reasonable amount of cash flow, then we can spend the same money for our investment decisions. So the many times the firms can work the reserve and surplus what they have, they can use for the development of the existing setup what the firm is having, and from that the company can generate revenue maybe in future. That all comes under capital budgeting decisions. There we'll study a lot, we'll spend a lot of time there, talking with NPV, IIR, payback, accounting rate of return. We'll discuss about them to understand them in much more better way. Or what a firm can do, a firm can look for unrelated business, and maybe that business the firm feel that there is a room for development, the firm can invest on those unrelated business, thereby the firm create financial assets for themselves. So there may be other firm which looking for money, short-term loan or something. So this there's a firm which can give them loan to them, and from there also the firm can generate revenue. So you understand that part. Normally, I talked about IPO, FPO, right issue, private placement, public issue, all that. So that way, when the firm raise money from the market, from all these market, the firm raise money. This market is called as primary market. This market is called as primary market. So basically, the financial market, what we talk about, that financial market can be either capital market. That financial market can be either capital market. So the capital market can be of two types. It can be primary market. Primary market is the market from where the money is being raised, either in the form of equity or debt. So the IPO, everything what we do, that is called primary market. And once the money is being raised, the company need to list themselves on the stock market, and then the investors can buy and sell the ownership from the stock market. That is called a secondary market. Then we have capital market, and then we have money market. So money market is basically, it is an integrated market of instruments, short-term debt instruments. So the integrated web market of short-term debt instruments are called as money market. The body which regulate the money market is FIMDA, Fixed Income Money Market and Derivative Association. So that is called money market. The body which work for them, that is FIMDA. And money market include instruments like commercial paper, certificate of deposit, repo, reverse repo, okay, treasury bills, all that comes under money market instruments. So money market instruments are basically, it's a market where the banks one bank borrow and lend money with the another bank for short-term purposes. Call, notice money, treasury bill, treasury notes, commercial paper, certificate of deposit, intercorporate deposits. So these all banks used to borrow and lend money among themselves. Corporates are allowed in money market only till a limited extent. As an individual, if you are really interested for money market instruments, you can invest through mutual funds. So mutual fund will give you that room to invest in money market instruments. Individuals are not allowed to participate in money market. Okay, so it's basically the web market. It's a integrated web financial market of short-term borrowing and lending among banks
and till certain extent, the corporate RBI basically govern the money market instruments. Capital market are basically long-term instruments. It can be long-term equity or debt. The equity don't have any definite maturity. The equity cannot be less than 1 year or more than 1 year as a maturity. So debt only we can talk about that kind of maturity. So capital market can be primary market, secondary market. Primary market, you understand IPO, FPO, right issue, or private placement. All that is being discussed in the primary market. And once it is being done, then the trading, everything which happens in the stock market, that we discuss in the secondary market. So you understood, stock exchanges. So in India, we have primarily Bombay Stock Exchange. We have National Stock Exchange. So once the company become a public company, they need to list themselves on the stock exchanges. And when I talk of stock exchange, we have Bombay Stock Exchange and we have National Stock Exchange. So the index, which basically talks about the momentum of the trading of the stocks over Bombay Stock Exchange. So there are a lot of indexes are there, but primarily the most famous index to look into the movement of Bombay Stock Exchange is Sensex, and the index what we look into to see the movement of the stocks over NSE is Nifty. So Nifty is basically it's a portfolio of 50 best companies, the large cap companies which are trading over the national stock exchange, while Sensex is basically it is an index which measures the performance of top 30 companies. So we have BSE, we have NSE, where the tradings on different stocks which are public company happens. These companies these companies which have done the IPO, these companies can be divided based on their market capitalization. They can belong to large cap company or mid cap or small cap, depending upon their market capitalization. These companies on the business model, they can belong to IT, pharma, FMCG, oil and gas, or anything, cement, mining, media, so based upon the business model. So we have all these companies which are trading over them, and we look into this Sensex, Nifty, and all to understand what is happening in these companies. So you can see this now. You can see this watch list here. If I click here, if I see here, you can see HP, HFCL, ITC, Yes Bank. So these all companies are there which are trading over NSE, BSE. What is happening in them? ITC today went up till like it gained so much momentum. Now it's trading around 212 rupees. That is the price at the present price at which the people are buying and selling the ITC stock. So why it has went up? News about ITC would be flooding in the market. ITC being a FMCG based firm, okay, so they are basically low beta stocks firm. So having low beta stocks firm like ITC, if any positive news about the company comes in the market, okay, if regarding to the business model, regarding to the management of the firm, anything regarding to the quarterly or half yearly result, automatically that will create a positive sentiment for that stock in the market, and that will then it we can definitely see that when we see the momentum, you can see the momentum what is being built by ITC over the period of today from 9:30 to till now. 9:30 it was trading around 207. Right now it went till 213. So from 2006 or 7 it went to 2013. You can see the kind of momentum which ITC is building for you people. So it all we need to refer newspaper, we need to refer news channels, we need to refer the book of account of the company, and by that we can easily make it out which company fundamentally are strong to invest. And if we feel so, then definitely we'll go and invest in those companies. So nowadays we are having hybrid financial instruments which are getting more and more popular. Either they're based on lease financing or either they are based on higher purchase mechanism. So we have another chapter of hybrid financing where we'll discuss more about them. Already I talked about the financing. Whenever we try to do, we can either do it by equity or we do by debt. In the case of equity, we transfer our ownership, but in the case of debt, the ownership is not transferred. In the case of debt, money is borrowed for a fixed time period. Okay. And we need, and once the time period get over, the instrument should be mature and we need to get back. In between, the interest is paid on the debt. So you know about debt and equity. So in the case of debt, if the money is raised with debt, if the money is raised from debt, if the money is raised from debt, then on the debt you pay interest. That interest is the cost of debt. Similarly, in equity, the cost, what is paid on equity, if you invest on equity, what is the cost, what is being paid. If you invest in the equity of the firm, then the cost what you pay, that is called dividend. Okay, so you need to understand payment of interest is the compulsion for the company. No matter company get a profit or company get a loss, the company will pay interest. But payment of dividend is not compulsion to the company. If whenever the company feel, they will give dividend to the shareholder. Otherwise, they will not give dividend to the shareholder. You need to understand the difference. Okay, so interest is a tax deductible expense. Interest is being from the profit, we deduct interest, then we pay tax. But dividend is not tax deductible expense. Okay, so you need to understand. So from EBIT, earning before interest and tax, which is called as operating profit of the company, from the operating profit of the company, we deduct interest. Okay, and then we call this a EBT, earning before tax, and then we pay tax, and then we get is called EAT, earning after tax. And if we want, then from this earning after tax, some part of this earning after tax we can give to our shareholder as a dividend, and remaining part we'll retain with ourselves, which is called as retained earning. So payment of dividend is not a compulsion for the company. Okay, so if you will not pay dividend to the shareholder, then more earning can be retained, and more earning is being retained. Then this retained earning every year, when it's keep in the saving account of the company, that is kept under this earning year on year basis, is kept under reserve and surplus of the company. This reserve and surplus will ultimately this reserve and surplus will improve the net worth of the company. And this net worth of the company, if it improves, then it is used as an internal equity. Then this net worth is used as in form of internal equity by the firm. Tomorrow, if the firm need any money, then they use this reserve and surplus as an internal equity. And then better, more is the reserve and surplus of the company, more stronger that company is. Are you getting it, guys?
Yes, sir.
So these all private placement, preferential allotment, creditors, and all that I discussed. Finance functions, I talked about investment functions. We'll spend a lot of time talking about investment functions, where when we talk about techniques of capital budgeting decisions, all that will spend a lot of time. Financing decisions, how they can raise money by debt or by equity. In debt, what form they can follow, in equity, what form they can follow, what is best as per the present economic condition. All that, if firm talks under financing purpose decision. Dividend decision means should they pay dividend or not to the shareholder? What are the pros and cons to if they don't pay dividend? Then short-term financial decisions is all about when the firm works on their working capital management or liquidity decisions. So talking about current assets, current liabilities of the firm. So again, you in operation management in third semester, you study common subject called operation management, where you study the techniques of Kaizen, lean manufacturing, okay, total quality management. All these techniques are being taught, are being used by management so that they can work on this short-term liquidity decision so that the balance between the inventory and the finished product can be established. And that way it will be very good for the company to work on the liquidity. So we have already talked about these decisions. I hope you will understood this. Okay. So I talked about the objective of the firm should be shareholder wealth maximization, not the profit maximization. I talked about the agency problem. Agency problem is the issue which can happen between the management and the shareholder of the company, where the management always look for certain time short-term gains, where the shareholders always look for creating value for the company in the long run. So how successfully management is working for the best interest for the shareholder, that is what we study under agency problem. And the cost what the shareholder has to pay, because maybe if the management is not working for the best interest for the public, for the firm in the long run, that cost is called agency cost. So this much from the today class, guys. We'll continue discussion tomorrow to understand more about these topics of financial management. And we have finished this first chapter called Nature of Financial Management. Next class, I will start the next chapter. Thank you, everyone. Any doubt, any question?
No, sir.
Okay, everyone. So I'm ending the class. I hope you people like the class. So with that intention, I'll wind up the class. Thank you, everyone. See you all in Operation Research class, which we have from 4 o'clock. Take care. Bye, everyone.